Hey class, welcome back to your final lab number 5. You'll notice I'm wearing the same thing as lab number 4 because I'm filming these kind of back to back. I'm still using that sample of Corniche water that I collected, and I wanted to do it as quickly as possible so it would be fresh, if that's the right term. So this, like I said, is your last lab of the semester. Normally we would have a few more, but with the situation going on, we've decided in the chemistry program to cut most labs down to, I think it's around 4 or 5 or 6 labs. So I'll explain the equipment. This is probably the quickest lab of the semester. A lot of this is done off camera, and that's it for the labs. All right, so before I do the very quick experiment or procedure, let's just talk about what I'm looking for or what I'm testing. So I'm looking for the total dissolved solids, or again, in this case, it'll be mostly salt or the salinity of this sample. I'm going to do that through filtration and then evaporation. Pretty simple process. If this was in your regular lab, this would take a week or at least a full day because we would leave our sample in the ovens overnight or for hours. So the fact that I'm home, I can do this a lot quicker. I've actually already done it, and the results are behind me, but I'll show you that later. The idea here is if I evaporate the water, I should leave behind the dissolved solids. Now, first, I'm looking for the dissolved solids. I'm not looking for anything else, any sediment that is not dissolved. So I'm going to use a coffee filter, but I'm going to try to filter this to get rid of things like, sand, sediment, microorganisms or algae or anything in this water that is not dissolved. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the experiment in general. We could use a meter for this, specifically for the salinity. The salinity, salt, these are ions. Ions are electrolytes, sodium and chloride. These would be conductive to electricity. So we could use a conductivity meter to test this and measure the conductivity and then figure out the salinity from that. We do have that equipment in the lab at the college, but because I'm home, I'm going to keep it quite simple. But again, like our other labs, we could use a meter for this, or in my case, I'm going to use this evaporation, and there might be some issues with that, which I'll talk about during the heating process. Before I talk about any of those issues, let's do part one. Part one is I have my beaker on my scales. I'm going to put this on top, okay? It fits pretty well, but I'm going to be careful. I'm going to zero or tare my scales, and I personally want to put in around 250 milliliters or grams of water. Remember, the density of water is about 1. The volume doesn't matter here. I'm going to pour in 250 grams. So I have this zeroed out. I'm going to fill this until this says around 250. The experiment that I already did was exactly 250, so I'm going to try that right now. I might fast forward while I'm pouring this because the filter takes some time. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my sample in here. It is at pretty much well, I guess I'll bring it up. If you can see the line for 250, where my thumb is, right? So it's pretty much at 250. These beakers are not very precise, by the way. They're approximately measured. So I think there's an error here of about 5%. So I don't care about the volume. I know I've put in, according to these scales, which don't have decimal places, but 250 grams. I mean, the setup is pretty much done. I have my oven over here preheated to just over 100 degrees Celsius. And all I'm going to do now is cover this with the watch glass. I'll explain why. And wait until this is dissolved. It should take a few hours. Again, I've already done that just to so I don't have to film in the night. But yeah, you'll see those results in a minute. So this is going to the oven. The thing is, a couple things about this. I don't want to boil it too vigorously, meaning I don't want this to rapidly boil and the water's going everywhere. I want to try to contain every bit of salt I can in here. And this brings me to the watch glass. The purpose of the watch glass is so, when it does evaporate, there is a little bit of a gap here from the lip for the steam or water to escape, and most of it should collect on the watch glass. So I'm going to weigh the watch glass with this as a whole, because you'll see at the end of the experiment there will be salt all over the inside of the beaker and up here in the watch glass. There is a problem though. Through evaporation, I can't guarantee every molecule, every grain, every formula unit of the salt will stay in this beaker. The little gap here, the lip, does allow the water to escape, but that can also bring with it some of my dissolved solids. So there is some error here. A salinity meter would be a lot better to reduce that error. So this is going in the oven. Before I do anything, I'm going to weigh this whole system. I know I've put in 250 grams of water, so that's something I'll put into my results or my data sheet, but I'm going to weigh this together, and then I'm going to weigh it again at the end. Now, in the video, tear this first. In the video, I'm not going to mess with my camera. I'm not going to bring it over here. I'm just going to record this number, and I'll share images of all these numbers with you guys on the quiz. So you'll have a couple sets of masses, and I'll let you do the calculations to figure out how much salt is in your sample. Okay, so this scale right here is telling me how much mass this total system is, and I'll weigh it again at the end. I will, again, put pictures of this up. So I'll be right back. Quick edit, the magic of YouTube. I do have this completed. Voila. So that was a few hours in the oven, wink, wink. I did this earlier this morning, I'll be honest with you. But here it is. Here's my sample. Now, I personally have already weighed this before I even messed or moved anything. Again, these pictures will be posted. So normally I wouldn't touch this, but I do want to show you the salt on the watch glass, or the dissolved solids, the salt in the beaker, right? So this is covered with those the dissolved solids. So I'll record this mass on here. Again, I'll take pictures of all of this for you, and you can do the write-up. Okay, so about the write-up or about the results is, if you look online, typically the salinity, again, I'm speaking mostly of salinity for this ocean sample. Typically, ocean waters can be a range, but they're around 35 parts per million salinity, 35 ppm. So we're going to see what this Corniche sample is, if it's higher or lower, the same compared to that. And all of this will be in your lab quiz. So look for the pictures in your lab quiz. Pretty quick experiment. This is the last one. So good luck. And if you have any questions, you know where to contact me. All right. Bye-bye. Last lab.